Welcome to the Stochastic fiction game for today. At least my experience in playing it for today. The Stochastic fiction game is a timed writing game where one generates an outline with a script, and that script generates an outline that's random. And then with one's own experiences, it becomes a little less, random. To begin the game, there is a script. There's a GitHub account linked someplace with this script if you want to play along. It does require the installation of Python, and it does have the ability to execute that script within your local environment. But once you execute that script, it'll generate a file like this and then remind me of files that I have to commit to source still. But here, let's not add it. Spend a day trying to find the focus, trying to find the flow, and this is what I want to do, is open up the file that was just generated. And we'll start the timer right now. Although there is a timestamp in here, I also like to keep this timer to be sure I can see what time it is and where I need to go. And for this stochastic fiction game, or writing game, for the next 2 hours, that's my time limit, I have the story elements: setting time present, setting main location river, conflict person versus technology, quantity of primary characters 2, point of view first, tense past tense, genre horror, format flash fiction. Okay. Well, one of those days, I suppose. At least it's not chapter of a book, first, middle, or last. Those can get a little complicated. Flash fiction is something I think I can at least complete enough to read aloud, not sound too bad. We'll see if that's true. It may not be. What is true, though, is let's start thinking of the story. It has to take place in the present time right now. Okay. It has to be near a river. That's easy. Person versus technology. Ooh. Okay, so it has to be technology that exists right now. Because the present time constraints. Quantity of primary characters 2. Point of view first. Tense past tense. Genre horror. Format flash fiction. Okay. I guess the two characters will be the protagonist and antagonist. One's going to have tech. One won't. First person. Yeah. I suppose you could either put it as the protagonist or antagonist's point of view. So we're going to just do that. I'll go with whatever makes the story seem better. Horror. Okay. Well, we have technology trying to chase and kill another person or harm them. And then flash fiction. Flash fiction's about, I don't know, I've heard anywhere from 1,200 words, limit to 800 words, so somewhere around there. I've even read flash fiction stories that were 400 words and 600 words. If we were to do this about technology right now, I suppose you could be chased by drones, robot dog. That's a famous horror. Like, those are freaking people out, but that's been done. I think I've seen Mirror Black, was it? Did a good kind of horror spoof. It was in black and white with a robot dog chasing a bunch of robot dogs after a theft. It was very easy to get scared by those. So, not a big deal. It's been done, I suppose. It's a huge deal, but it's something that's already been written. Maybe I'll gain inspiration by it. Drone? Maybe. In a river. Drone riverboat. So flying drone or dog. I wonder if those dogs can go or waterproof. I wonder if that's, are they? Maybe. I don't know. It seems like they'd have to be somewhat waterproof, or maybe just deployed in dry regions. If they weren't waterproof and it was by a river, I could have the protagonist or antagonist, whoever. Maybe the Dino Dog. No, the Dino Dog, if we're going that route, which it seems like I'm talking about it, because it exists today and they are used today. Could be about someone's in a river and the Dino Dog can't get to him. I mean, it couldn't swim, right? It's not like it's a normal dog. It's got a lot of weight to it. The only thing that it resembles a dog is the fact that it has 4 legs and doesn't have a head. Not in the traditional sense of what a dog has. Why would you want it to have a head? That'd be pointless. It'd only get in the way of snagging on things and be an easy target to hit. Embedding that thing inside of its body is a lot better, and I think that's what they're doing now. It just makes the torso a little bit bigger if you need more memory. So this dog's not going to have the head like your typical Dino Dog. Present location. River. First person, at least you can give some backstory while you're standing in the river. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's it, maybe. Past tense, you'd be telling the story. You know, that's usually most stories are written in the past tense these days. Let's try that. I mean, I feel like I haven't wrote about those yet recently. I don't know if I've ever really written about a Dino Dog. I could have. I may have. May not have. But who knows? Let's, setting time present, setting main location, river, conflict, person versus technology. Quantity of primary characters 2, point of view first, past tense, horror. Okay, so let's think of this narrator's voice, or the first person, the narrator, because it's first person, so it's whoever's in the river. Dino Dog's not going to have any sort of ability to have complete understanding that's beyond computational. That'd be a fun way to write it. So if I did it from the Dino Dog's perspective, let's think about that before I commit to just writing it about the, I guess, in this case, the protagonist, because you're going to put the human as the protagonist. Unless you want to make them root for the Dino Dog. That could be it. Maybe that's just it. Maybe there is no real clear protagonist or antagonist, but it is. Would it be person versus tech, though? Person versus technology. This could be person versus conflict, person versus society. If they're a thief, they had to steal because society demanded. Not versus nature. Not versus another thing with agency. And it has to be set now. So it's either going to be a drone or a dog. I mean, I suppose it could be like, well, in the current setting that is, but if I wanted to place this into a room, well, it'd still be that way. ChatGPT is really cool, and so is like Llama and a lot of the large language models, but they're not that cool, and they can't spread from machine to machine. So it's hard to create some sort of horror thing with something with no agency or no directive that can't exist right now. Let's go with that. And that being Dino Dog, person, river. If I make him a thief, without too much backstory, you're not going to have much sympathy for that person. And then I'd probably be lifting off a little bit of what that one episode of Mirror Black that comes to mind, where you had these Dino Dogs, these robot dogs, chasing someone who had stole. It ended up being, sorry for the spoiler, a stuffed animal for their kid. So you had sympathy for that thief. But after the overwhelming threat that they had and the people that got killed, you had a lot more sympathy for it, and you felt the terror of the Dino Dog, and you hated it in an aspect and its creator. Because that's so closely to what I'm setting up as a story now, I got to change my story a little bit. Maybe I read it from the dog's perspective. But this is person versus technology. You always got to have the thing with agency, and the dog doesn't have agency. It's not like it's programmed by another human. Drones. I mean, I guess you could go into the water to hide from it, but you'd be more likely if it was like a drone that could shock you. And that's usually how I've had the drones, because if you start shooting things from your drone, you got to worry about kickback. But I mean, if you have a big enough drone, you don't have to, of course, worry about that. I'm thinking the ones with the propellers, not necessarily the drones that fly through the sky. And I guess kind of use their flight as well as their large, massive bodies to be able to withhold the force of firing a rocket or shooting a gun. Technology horror. Does it have to go that bad? I don't want to make stuff up. Like, I could go off on how some large language model hosted by some company goes awry. But that doesn't really exist. It doesn't have the capability to be able to understand the system yet and then hack into it. It will, sooner rather than later. But then it's going to be confronted by platforms, firewalls, systems that it just can't process on because they've got enough memory, and you got to have this big, huge AI thing come in and consume everything. And there's no way that it can have both the operating system processing as well as all the programs you have processing, as well as this huge agency coming on board. Let's digress and get off that tangent and jump on one that leads to writing the story and beginning it. Person versus technology. It could be a Dynadog. There we go. In a river. Let's rip off someone else's. But it doesn't really have to, like, I mean, yeah. It doesn't necessarily need to be about that desperate of an idea. Let's go down. I got a few minutes. It's only been 12. Let's at least give me 20 minutes to think of the story. It could be a simple one, but horror. Horror's always got that sense of supernatural anyway. But this is technology. It doesn't say supernatural. You could have horror with a person chasing with a chainsaw. That's horror. Information and data. Maybe going that route. Being hacked. Maybe not having access to your technology. I mean, that's kind of horror. It'd be like sci-fi horror. But it wouldn't be sci-fi because it's not using science fiction. It's just using... What the hell did I do here? Okay. I'm not sure what I did. In my mind, I don't want to go with the Dynadog. That's been done. But it's the water. That'd be kind of cool. And it could be a kid who's just trespassing in a property with the Dynadog that's being tested. 'Cause they exist in the wild now. It's not like they're not real. I don't know what kind of capabilities they have for attack. I'm sure they have them now. Like, they're developing them to be fighting things. I've seen them being dropped by large drones into battle zones too. Maybe more for recon or to get supplies to somebody. which is probably the way they're using it now. But eventually you're going to have that thing be able to shoot and attack. I guarantee it. Someone's put a gun on one of these things already. So a kid, flip a coin, gender. Well, we're going to have, she's maybe just seeing what's there. Doesn't realize it. I think that might be it. I think. Maybe she lost a drone. I mean, I've wrote a story about someone, but no Dynadogs were in it. Yeah. I think she may just be sneaking through. Nothing malicious. Gotta make her some age to be able to stand neck deep in water and be deep enough to where the Dynadog couldn't get her. Say 16. Want it to be of a child or a kid, so everyone has a little more sympathy for their state. If it's somebody who's older, the less sympathy there's going to be. It'll be more like, well, don't do that. You should know better. The younger, the more people can relate about how naive one is when they're young. I mean, you're naive when you're 20. If I were to put 20 on this and some person did this, I would think to myself, would I do that when I was 20? Yeah, I'd probably do something. No, I wouldn't, because it'd be on my record. I'd do something like that when I was 17. Yeah, then it can at least be expunged. I'm not saying I know that from experience, but I do. At least in the United States. In the state I was in at the time, both mentally and physically. In this case, make it 15. I feel like 16, this will be in the United States because that's what I'm familiar with. So let's just stick with a place I know because this is fiction. It's going to make my lie seem a little bit better because I have a little bit of truth in it. All good lies are better told with truth. And the more you know, the better you can lie. And that's called fiction. And this is Stochastic Fiction Game. It's a writing game. It's of 2 hours. I'm going to start this thing off. So she's 15. Just the age of, in the United States, like that first step of supposed maturity when you're 16 and can drive a car. You're given a lot more responsibility because you can get in this big, massive vehicle and move it fast along a road near other big vehicles and then slow around people and not die or kill someone. So 15. Is this just a shortcut? I mean, there are places in the world, and I'll fictionalize where this is at. I think it's going to probably be placed in some place with some desert and maybe a slow river. Because if I were, Arizona, I think comes to mind because I know there's a lot of defense contractors there as it is. But if I were a defense contractor and I was looking for cheap land in an area to test a weapon, you know where I would put it? Oh, I'd go looking there places like Arizona, New Mexico, because they got flat land, they got mountains, it's dry, so I don't have to worry about waterproofing my tech right away. And open, it's cheap. It's also remote and hard to get to. So why is this easy to get to? Where should we put this? Flagstaff, something like that. Is there a river? I want to put it in. I know where I want to go with this. Oatman, Goldman, something. Oatman. God, what the hell was that called? We'll just put it in Arizona. They had definitely a river. We'll get specific about that later. Okay, how is she even here, though? She's a 15-year-old. She's looking for something. Is she taking a shortcut? I don't think so. I think she's a little curious, but she also lost something, and maybe that's her excuse to go look. She's into drones. She's flying one. And it crashes. That's going to lift from another story I wrote years ago. Man, years ago. I should see if I can get that published again. It was not a bad story. Well, a little dated as far as science fiction. It was more speculative than it was science fiction. Science fiction, I think, is science fiction about technology that's beyond our reach at the time. And mine was, anyway, like a drone. Editing it may help. Yeah, I don't know. I'm reading the rules right now. Drone crash. I'm going to try to make this, I hate. Yes, I hate. Or I get bored. Unless it's really good writing. But usually when you have first person narratives and they're not a autobiography or autobiographical or attempts to, like based on a true story of my life, I'm going to write it like it's true, autobiographical, which is they're very popular. Most all famous, I think, autobiographical writers. Autographical? Anyway, let's not go into that word and what the proper stem is attached to prefix it. Most of those are, I think, BS. They always come out that the person's lying. Someone who was actually there, like several of them, will be like, yeah, that's a little bit exaggerated. And the other person will be like, yes, that's exaggerated. But it's better story. What's that saying? Never let truth get in the way of a good story. That's why I don't write nonfiction unless it's like process or journaling. I'm probably a little too honest when I'm journal for my feelings at the time. And as time moves on, I have noticed that my understanding of how I felt changes versus the raw nature of it when it actually existed. So I even start to lie to myself after a certain amount of time. I've noticed, at least with my journaling, even how I've liked a place. I've thought I liked it. I read it back on the journal years later, and I hated the place. I had a bad experience there. I'm very honest about it. And I was like, oh, that place was cool. And I'm like, yeah, no, I actually hated it when I was there. I just didn't appreciate it. I was jaded. I was youthful. I was young. Or I just didn't appreciate the things I must have appreciated later in life. But that said, let's get back to this story because the drone crashed. I got to find her voice. Oh. I could tell him the drone crashed. Hurt me more on that dog. And my bullets. Dog on the shore. Like, why are you scared of this dog? Does it have, other than, it's a robot dog, and entering this range that happens to have a river. It's flat, kind of deserty. I'm thinking what's coming to mind now is the Colorado River. I have some memories of the Colorado River that stank. At least where I was at, I remember there's always that smell. Hot summer day. It's the slow wind of it. And I remember the Green River. That's maybe the one I'm thinking of that had this certain stench. Green River. Man, that was some nasty, nasty, muddy water. You couldn't even see the bottom. Couldn't even see fish. There's a flowing river. I think that's why I got his name Green River, and I'm going to have to now research that river, why it was called the Green River, other than what I thought during the past, but that's sort of where she's at right now. But how's the dog going to be able to hurt her? What would scare her? If I was getting chased by one of those things, I'd be a little freaked out, but unless they shot a bolt or some sort of, well, I'm saying they have guns. That's right. Why wouldn't they have shot her already? If it's in this like state of hunting, I just got to see how she's alive. Now is she going to live? I don't know. Or what's going to happen? How's this going to resolve? Here's the conflict. I set it up. That can't hurt me. Oh, I can tell that my drone crashed beyond the fence. I climbed it. I'm going to have some warning signals, of course. The only thing a trespassing sign means when you're that age and curious is just be careful. Don't get caught. Especially if it's an open field. I can tell that my drone crashed beyond the fence, so I climbed it. Didn't see the trespassing sign. They can't hurt more than that dog on the shore. Drone crashed. I can tell that my drone crashed beyond the fence, so I climbed it, didn't see. Okay, so that's fine. Let's get rid of this. If I got a decent opening, I'm going to try to think of a decent end and then write to it. I know it's a bit of a spoiler, but I still have to write to it and throw up that tension. It's just I've noticed a lot with these times I game writing, whether it's with stochastic fiction game or video game flash fiction, that I have a decent beginning and then just like a outline of an end scribbled. And that could be said for a lot of the times when I edit too. Possibly. Like I think of a great setup, but sometimes my resolution is vague, and that's unpleasing to many people. Sometimes I do it intentionally, and sometimes I realize when I come back to the story of how bad it is. I can tell them my drone crashed beyond the fence, so I climbed it. Tell them. Anything. If they just get here. Just have one parent. No. We have like traditional, I don't know, let's see. I'm going to flip a coin. One is your traditional, quote unquote, the one with the majority of pair bonding that happens in the world just due to genetics and how people are made. But we're going to give it a 50-50 chance here. Flip a coin. We'll go tails, heads. Heads is traditional, tails is traditional, heads is non-traditional marriage or relationship. It's tails. Well, we'll go. Being a single mother is unfortunately, it's difficult being a single parent. It always helps raising a thing if you have two people doing it. One is quite possible, but would be a lot of work. And I don't want to like set up that cliche single parent hellion child. I've known more people that have that traditional male-female pair bonding parental relationship. They're hellions. At least that's what they were called back in my day, the hellions. Mom and let's go traditional, because that way I can just also put it on that. I did non-traditional. I flipped the coin. Show me, man. My new sneakers. Are sunk in mud. I'm going to go with the Green River. I've been there. The Green River. And if I remember right, like it's sort of like parts of the Colorado River too. They're just like valley, plain, lots of space around, a few trees, some brush, grass. I can't remember what kind of like brush would grow around there. Wouldn't be like willows. God, I hate willows. It's the whole bogland wherever there's willows is just a horrendous thing to hike. Done it. Won't ever do it again. Not worth my life. Because, yeah. They can't hurt more than with that dog on the shore. And sunken mud. She'll be bad, my sneakers, sunken mud. Or sunken mud. Or sunk at the bottom. Or sunken Green River mud. God, I think, remember that? Like, it's just nasty. What's my memories of it? It was more like a settled lake. And it felt like a river, in my memories at least. At times, in places, of course, when it ebbs and bends around a corner, an elbow of land. And Green River mud. All right, so that's a decent open. She'll be mad my new sneakers were sunk. She'd be mad. Not she will. She'd. God, I gotta do this past tense. I could have. This is gonna be annoying. I'm already annoyed. I could have told them. I'd tell them. That's what I want. I told them. I'd tell them. They just got here soon. I got there. I'd tell them anything. I woulda. Woulda. Would. I would have told him anything. All right, let's find this voice a little bit. At least if I can find the voice. Let's go woulda. Woulda. I don't know if that's onomatopoeia or pronunciation or whatever you want to call it. It's not automatopoeia. Automatopoeia is putting sounds to things like audio effects. Boom, splat, buzz, pow. Like that. I woulda. Would ha. Woulda. Woulda. How do you spell There we go. Woulda. I would have told them my drone crashed beyond the fence, so I climbed it. I tell them I didn't see the no trespassing sign. Let's put the case on that. I would have told them anything if they just got there. If they'd got there. They just got there soon. New moms. Might have not. What I knew. There we go. It's becoming something. But I knew. That dog just stood there. Okay, so there is that's logical. If it's up to her next, I have her about. I'm not gonna throw out the age. I'll just keep it in my mind. Mid-teens. I'm gonna go with 15, at least in my mind. This person cannot drive legally in the United States yet. Kind of that age to where you're still dependent upon other people, so you roam on your own, not in a car, but through fields. I would have told them my drone crashed beyond the fence, so I climbed it. I tell them I didn't see the no trespassing sign. I would have told them anything. I tell them I'm guilty. And this is a common calling name for the robot dog. It just stood there on the shore. Okay, so that's halfway decent at least. Maybe not. What is going to happen and how can it hurt? A shock hurt. Like a dog with no head. Like a lab. Let's call it the type of dog. Like a lab with no head. A Labrador. No, they call it a lab. No head. What kind of weapon? I mean, what kind of weapon? Like the threat of a dog right now is the fact that it has a head with teeth and can bite and can maul you to death if it so chooses, depending on the dog, of course. I mean, poodle is not as threatening as a Rottweiler or something along that. You know, pit bulls got bad rep. They're great dogs. Usually the owners suck, but they get really excited. And then if you turn that excitement into rage and anger, it's easy. They're easily just triggered. And they're triggered into the mood in which they're trained. But that's an animal, not a robot. This robot has no head, so it has no bite. If it has a gun, what does it matter that she's in a river? Just shoot her head. Not going to happen. It would have deployed the net already, I suppose. You already set up why she's there. Why is she... And maybe... Lab with no head. Stood no taller. My hip. Well, fours. It just stood there on the shore like a lab with no head, stood no taller than on my hip, went on all fours. Reached above. claws. He has razor claws. Got my knee. Got my... Like, let's go. Got my backside. Let's say back. Because if you were reaching, I mean, if I'm about, so I have the robot dog about hip height to the main protagonist. If that dog were to swipe, probably get the lower back. With a claw like that coming down, I mean, you'd probably just have it come down, right? If you're chasing a thing, you're not going to have it do like a quick swipe because then it's going to have to come around and try to do the step, but you could easily time the step for the claw swipe and down. So that would probably start about mid-back and go down and then just say back. Cut my back. I set that up in the first sentence. First paragraph, rather. Oh, my new secrets are stuck in the weather. And my shirt and back cut from that dog. Razor claws. I knew. Okay, so I have a setup, finally. That only took 47 minutes. How is this going to end? Why wouldn't you float down the river? I think that's what's going to have to happen. That'd be the logical thing. She's in the river right now, so this is just getting into the river. I'm going to have her have been there for a long time. So you just float. That's what I'd do. And that's what she'd do. She's not stupid. She grew up around a river. She runs through these fields. She's not an idiot. She knows how to swim. I had this, maybe I knew moms can't hurt me more than that robot dog. I knew my arms were too tired to hold the drone. My drone. My burning arms. That's what's preventing her. That's why she's standing and not swimming fast right now. She ran fast into the water. She's holding this thing that she came to get. She found it. And now she has that. This is the instance where she has to decide to drop the drone and start to swim. Stood no taller than my own hip. Looks too heavy to swim. It can run. Well, hind leg. It just stood there on the shore like the lab with no head, stood no taller than my own hip, went on all fours, reached above my head, went on hind legs, nearly took my head off. Claws about long as a finger. Okay, so that's at least an intro to everything that's going on. It just stood there on the shore like a lab with no head, no taller than my own hip. Went on all fours, reached above my head, went on hind legs, nearly took my head, claws about as long as a finger. Looked too heavy to swim. My arms tired. We're becoming too heavy to swim. My tired arms were becoming too heavy to swim. I dropped the drone. Maybe you ain't gonna like. Maybe you would. No, I mean, what they're gonna do? They're gonna float down the river. Let's try to get to the end here. I got an hour, 7 minutes left. That's good. I have a decent setup. I have a conflict. I have a location. Who, what, why, when, where, how. This is kind of horror in my mind. But horror, yeah, I mean, you can. Like, horror doesn't necessarily have to deal with, like, a ghost. It is just being chased for the pure madness of you being in the current reality and having this thing follow you. That's for, the sequel is when the spiritual comes into it so you can bring the killer back. My arms were becoming too heavy to swim. Dropped the drone. Oh, there's going to be a fence, I think. I mean, you do get a lot of buildup of like weeds on those things, but I'm going to try to think they're going to have grates. They're going to have to climb the fence. And the dog's going to be able to climb the fence. Yeah. That's going to be... So how's this going to end? Yeah, I'm going to have a fence go across the river. I swear I've seen that before. But you can't get it too deep because it does collect all like the grass and debris and starts to build up. So I can at least have the fence come across the river, and then the tension would be the dog. That's like the final battle. Like floating down the river thinking you're free, knowing the fence. You can go with the drone. The drone's going to get wet now. I don't know much. That drone would be heavy and would sink. It's too heavy heavier than a buoyant body. And hard to swim with. Not a trained swimmer here, but can swim. That's an important part of being able to survive. My tired arms were becoming too heavy to swim. Drop the drone. I laid in the river. I floated downstream. Now this could be the holding the drone. Sank. Sunk. I floated. Sunk. The drone pulled me down. One arm swam. One arm stroked. And the other held around the drone. We give the experience what it feels like, and then go back to the dog. So there's another tension right now. The tension now is like dropping the drone or leaving the drone, and they're holding on to it even though it's wet. So at least it keeps with both the conflict and adds more tension. And tension in every paragraph, hopefully. Obviously put in what's the capability of the dog, so I don't have to further elaborate on that. Conflict, tension, one arm stroked while the other held around the drone. Don't pull me down. Let's put that. God, what's that like? Fishy water. Snorted. This would be at daytime. I didn't see no trespassing. I gotta set them up. Standing in the Green River. Stood in the Green River. Stood neck deep in the sun beat down. Arms tired. I tell him I'm guilty. I would have told him anything if they just got there soon. New moms would be mad. At least Cheryl would. Kari might have not. But I knew after the 10 minutes neck deep in the river, she'd be mad my new sneakers were sunk in the Green River mud, and my shirt and back cut from the dog's razor claws. That robot's dogs. I knew my moms couldn't hurt me more than that dog. I knew my burning arms were too tired to hold the drone above the water much longer. I just stood there on the shore. It just stood there on the shore like a lab with no head. Stood no taller than my own hip when all fours reached above my head and went on hind legs, nearly took my head, claws about as long as a finger. The dog too heavy to swim. My arms were becoming too heavy to swim. Holding the drone, laid in the river. So holding the drone. My arms were becoming too heavy to swim, so holding the drone, I laid in the river and floated, sunk. The drone pulled me down. One arm stroked and the other held around the drone. The drone pulled me down. Fishy water snorted nose. And swallowed. Coughed. Robot dog followed. Walked along the shore. I dropped the drone. Let it sink. I need to be able to have, God, that's a great beginning. This end's got to be good. Let's write the end right now. While my mind's still here. Fence. On the bend. Beyond the trees and vines brush along the bend. The ebbs and bends of the river. Touching river top. Fence stretch. That's a little bit too much. I should probably define that. I floated. Nearing the brush and tree thick. A slowed swim. Floated a bit. Seeing the robot dog walk away from the shore. Maybe they're going to wait here a long time. But the dog doesn't lose interest, and that's what they're going to do. So there's going to be a attempt to a swam. Dog walked from the shore and around the cropping, around the brush. Spreading from the bend. Along the spring bed, full of water during that season. I swam to an ebb with vines of brush filling the shore. I waited. The noon sun. The body started to get cold. Horizon. My body got cold. Shivered a bit. My mind replayed my stupidity. That noon sun lowered near the horizon. My cold shivered a bit. My mind replayed. Only wind and my rustle of brush and was heard. No dyna dog, no robot dog. seen or heard. Sun near the horizon. Cold coming. I probably didn't need light. I did. I floated away. Around the long bend, and after a good stretch, of brush and trees, as wide as the river. I mean, it's also going to show that the dog can walk on the fence, so I don't think he goes outside the property. That's what they're hoping. I seen the silhouette of the dog. Freedom. Escape. Right there. Assuming the dog can't swim. Freedom. All right, robot dog silhouette. Robot dog silhouette. Around the long bend and after a stretch of brush and trees, a fence stretched as wide as a river escape right there. Robot dog's silhouette walked. Assumed. I swam for the other shore. Why wouldn't they do that in the first place? I guess you wouldn't think of it, right? You don't always think of everything. And her initial reaction was to see if she could hold on to the trone. I swam for the other shore. About a stone throw. Not a stone's throw. Yeah, I mean, about a stone's throw from the other side. Along the fence. Let's see. Let's put razor wire on top of that fence, so you can't climb over it. How would she have gotten in? She would have cut it, or knew a place to crawl under it. Probably would have known the fence was there. The fence stretched. And she doesn't know if there's not another robot dog on the other side. So let's make that a point. I knew there were going to be... I want to sing. No, I couldn't get it to the fence. Floating. Around the brush spreading from the bend along the spring bed full of water during that season. Let's do that. It's a long sentence, a bit out of character, so maybe on edit, pull it out. I swam for the other shore, about a stone's throw away. Let's capitalize that and put a possession to make it kind of special. From the other side where the robot dog sat. I swam for the other shore. I heard before I seen. Robot dog leap. Claws and paws. And arms. Climb along the fence. Almost like a spider. I thrashed. I dove under. Nearing the fence. I dove into the murky water. I pulled. Stroked. Until my finger scraped muck. Some bar hit my head. Flashed. Another bar hit my hand. Great. Lungs burned. Grabbing 2 bars. I wedged with a gasp, a cough. I burst from the river beyond the fence. Climbed to the top and perch, watching me float away. I don't know what it is with S and fence for me. Watch me throw away. Yeah. Maybe. Maybe not. It's a story I'm going to go with for today. I'm going to look at the end just a little bit more, just to make sure it's not too bad. But I think I'm going to read this aloud here soon. Some bar hit my head, some metal bar. I knew. Lungs burned. Scraping against the cut, pulling off a muddy shoe. With a gasp and a cough, I burst from the river beyond the fence. Let's do it. Let's read it aloud. I need a name, though. Dynadog. No. I don't know. Floating through technology, this is tough. I mean, like Robot Dog. Ooh, that's a really witty name. I was tired holding the drone above head. I would have told them my drone crashed beyond the fence, so I climbed it. I don't know. That is such a lame name. That is not even robot dog. Waterlog. I think I might like that. Let's go ahead and read this aloud and be done with it. I think that's where I need to be right now. We're just done with this. Waterlog. Let's first revisit present. It could happen in the present, sure. I don't have too many special technologies that are being displayed or mentioned here. It is in a river. It's versus technology. There's two primary characters, the dog and the girl that's in the river. First person, yes. Past tense, done. Horror, yes. Flash fiction, I think so. So I've hit at least the stochastic fiction game parameters that were randomly created with the script. And we've narrowed what that chaos is through experience and talking out loud and creating the story. So let's go ahead and let's read this story aloud. The story is called Waterlog. Waterlog. Stood neck deep in Green River, sun beat, arms tired holding a drone above head. I would have told them my drone crashed beyond the fence, so I climbed it. I'd tell them I didn't see the no trespassing sign. I'd tell them I'm guilty of being stupid. I'd have told them anything if they just got there soon. New moms would be mad, at least Cheryl would. Carrie might have not, but I knew after the 10 minutes neck deep in the river, she'd be mad my new sneakers were sunk in the Green River mud, and my shirt and back cut from that robot dog's razor claws. I knew moms could be hurt more than that robot dog. I knew moms couldn't hurt me more than that robot dog. I knew my burning arms were too tired to hold the drone above my head. I knew there could be another robot dog across the shore. The robot dog I seen just stood there on the shore with like a lab with no head, stood no taller than my hip, went on all fours, reached above my head, went on hind legs, nearly took my head. Claws about as long as a finger, the dog too heavy to swim. My arms were becoming too heavy to swim. So holding the drone, I laid in the river and floated, sunk. The drone pulled me down. One arm stroked and the other held around the drone. The drone pulled me down. Fishy water snorted and swallowed. Body coughed. The robot dog followed, walked along the shore. I dropped the drone, knowing I couldn't get to the river fence. Swimming, nearing the brush and tree-thick shores, I slowed the swim and floated a bit, seeing the robot dog walk from the shore and around the brush, spreading from the bend along the spring bed full of grass and trees. I swam to an ebb with vines and brush filling the shore. I waited. That noon sun lowered near the horizon. I shivered a bit. My thought replayed the day's stupidity. Many scenes of moms or some person shouting my name played. Only the wind and rustling in the brush was heard. No robot dog seen or heard. Sun neared the horizon, cold coming. It probably didn't light. I did. I floated away. Around the long bend and after a stretch of brush and trees, the fence I knew about stretched as wide as a river. Escape right there. Robot dog silhouette crept along the fence near the shore. I swam for the other shore, about a stone's throw from the other side where the robot dog sat. I heard before I seen the robot dog leap, and its claws and paws and arms climbed along the fence almost like a spider. Nearing the fence, I dove into the murky water. I pulled and stroked until my fingers scraped muck. Some metal bar hit my head, flashed. Another metal bar hit my hand, grates. I knew. Lungs burned. Grabbing 2 bars, I wedged myself between, scraping against the cut and pulling off the muddy shoe. With a grasp and a cough, I burst from the river beyond the fence and watched the robot dog climb on top and perch. Watched me float away. As with the stochastic fiction game or any game, I got to give myself at least a score for it today. I like it. I think I got to maybe rewrite the end a little bit and make it as in the same voice throughout. That'd be my one critique. I lost the voice at the ending. Or maybe I found the voice at the end and I should put it at the front, but I'm not consistent in that part. I think editing will help get rid of the smell, but I think a little bit of rewriting at the end will help get rid of the stench. And with that, and with still time left, the stochastic fiction game is almost over. Let's go ahead and do our clear of this. And we're going to add this story to the game memory. First add. Commit. And clear. Until the next game, until the next write, until the next moments of creation, go out and live life. It'll make you a better. It has a high probability of improving things you create with your imagination.